My name is Kelly Lang, and I'm the Vice President. I'll be chairing the meeting tonight in the absence of President Mr. Zweigert. Chris Jenkins and Dr. Temez are both absent and excused from tonight's meeting. This is a public meeting of the School Board of West Bend Joint School District Number 1. More than 24 hours prior to the meeting, notice of the time, place, date, and subject matter of this meeting was posted at the entrance doors of the Education Service Center and on the district's website. It was also sent to the West Bend Community Memorial Library, the Daily News, WRYU, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and other media sources that have requested notice of our meetings. I'll pause to ask Superintendent Wimmer to confirm that this meeting was properly posted.
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Please rise and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is approval of the agenda. I move to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Melanie. I have a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will move to student reports. Our student representatives are here tonight. Please come to the podium, and if you could please introduce yourself before you speak.
Hi, I'm Quinn Matthey. I'm an East Junior, and today I will be sharing student life and academics because Haley is not here today. The juniors will be taking the ACT next Tuesday on March 17th. A good luck to all juniors, and we are going to do great. Scholarship interviews for seniors are taking place this week, where they will be interviewed and asked questions about why they should get this available scholarships. Build Motto Program, a program offered to West Bend East and West students through our automotive classes, was featured in an article about Transportation Today, Wisconsin. Our own West Bend East senior, Chloe Bauer, wrote the article, so 2 celebrations in 1. We had our Charity Week pep assembly where kids participated in fun games and hyped up our school before the charity dance that took place on that Saturday with DJ Young Santi. It was fantastic, and Haley personally loved the light show.
Hi, I'm Bella. I'm an East Junior. I'm going to talk about clubs and co-curriculars. So Charity Week took place during the last week of February, concluding with an all-school assembly and a charity dance over the weekend. Students participated in dress-up days and celebrated 6 different organizations that all have a positive impact on our community. All in all, the event raised $57,000. The West Bend High School Fishing Club recently took a team of 12 to the Wisconsin Interscholastic Fishing Association State Ice Fishing Championship. 2 anglers received their Master Angler plaques, and 1 received his Hall of Fame Angler plaque.
And I'll be talking about athletics next. And as our winter sports are coming to an end, we wanted to congratulate Jack Lubinsky, a West Junior, on placing 3rd at state for wrestling, and a big congratulations for Colin Weber, a West freshman, for making state as well. Good luck to all athletes participating in spring sports, which are starting today and the next couple of weeks. West boys basketball played their 2nd round of the regionals against Nicolet. They sadly lost in a tough battle to end their season. And East boys basketball also ended their season in a really close fight to Kewaskum in the 1st round of regionals. At the pep assembly the last week of February, we respected all varsity winter sport athletes as they walked around the gym.
All right, so for our teacher shout-outs, we have been having students fill out Google Forms to just shout out a teacher that they thought was really special. So our teacher shout-out this month is Mr. Lewandowski. Mr. Lewandowski brings energy, humor, and heart to the classroom every day. Students often share how much they appreciate the way he makes history come alive by including multiple perspectives and adding humor that keeps them engaged. One student even noted how generous he is with his candy bucket. Just one of the small ways he builds positive connections with students. I'm in his 2nd hour class. I can approve that. What stands out most to students is Mr. Lewandowski's patience and personality. They describe him as one of the most patient teachers they've ever met, and his spunky personality makes learning fun and memorable. It is clear that Mr. Lewandowski's passion for teaching and genuine care for students makes a lasting impact in our school community. Thank you for listening to the great things happening in our school.
Thank you.
Good job, Mr. Thanks for sitting through that.
Thank you, Quinn and Bella. We really appreciate keeping connected to the student community, so thank you for coming and presenting. Next on the agenda is public participation. I have 16 public participation comment cards, so I will read the preamble for the public participation. We've come to the public participation portion of our agenda. School Board Policy 187 prescribes the nature and procedures for this segment. I summarize the policy at this time, but copies of the policy are available at the back of the room, and I urge you to familiarize yourself with the policy in its entirety. Residents of the district, parents of children in district schools, and employees of the district may participate. Participants desiring to address the school board should obtain and complete a participant comment card near the entry and turn it over to the school board vice president tonight, prior to the meeting or when allowed by the school board vice president. Participants may comment concerning an agenda item or a non-agenda item. Each participant will be called to the podium and given 3 minutes to speak. The participant must state his or her name, address, and relation to the district. This information will appear in the minutes of the meeting. The school board will not engage in debate concerning the remarks or take immediate action. The school board may refer the matter to the superintendent, a committee, or take the remarks into consideration for future action. School Board Policy 872 provides a formal process for citizen complaints and employee complaints. The school board recommends use of these procedures as they guarantee a fair and timely response. I will now invite the participants forward to speak. So I'll call the first one and then tell whoever is up next so you can prepare. So first up is Jody Leithoff, and second is Jessica Tortomasi.
Good evening. My name is Jody Leithoff, and I'm speaking tonight as a member of the West Bend Education Association. Please know I respect the time you devote to being a board member, and I do thank each and every one of you. Tonight, however, I'm here to ask you to be proactive with teacher salaries. Please set aside money right now, this spring, in next year's budget for a cost of living increase for all teachers. As you know, I've attended just about every school board meeting the past 5 years. I've heard over and over how we always have a balanced budget. Great, that's great. I have heard every year that our fund balance is healthy. In fact, it was shared with you recently at a board meeting that currently the fund balance is at a record high when compared to the past 5 years. This means the fund has grown nearly $5 million during the past 5 years and now surpasses $20 million. That balance sits approximately at 25%, which exceeds even the maximum amount recommended by the current board policy. In fact, the district could spend approximately $3 million out of that Fund 10 balance this year and still have been above the district's own maximum recommendation of 20%. Instead, the district spent approximately $419,000 on base wage increases, once again resulting in no cost of living increase. Personally, my pay increase was approximately 1.3%. A cost of living increase currently stands at 2.95%, making my increase not even half of a cost of living increase. Which brings me to my second main point, base salary increases. Why are base salary increases not the same across the board for all employees? Why are veteran teacher increases lower than others? Why do administrators receive a higher increase the longer they have been in the district? Shouldn't longevity be treated the same across the board? Finally, every year I listen at board meetings to how the facilities capital projects departments need yearly increases and the technology department needs yearly increases. Those always pass without hesitation. What about a cost of living increase? Could you please do the same? Please budget in spring for our salaries next year. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jessie Tortomasi, and I'm also speaking tonight as a member of the West Bend Education Association. I'm here because I care deeply about the future of our schools and the future of our community. Before I talk about numbers, I want to talk about a teacher. Most of us can remember one teacher who changed our lives. Maybe it was the teacher who stayed after school to help when something just didn't make sense. Maybe it was the one who encouraged us when we doubted ourselves. Or maybe it was the teacher who saw potential in us before we saw it in ourselves. For many students, teachers are more than educators. They are mentors, role models, and sometimes they're the one stable and encouraging adult in a child's life. But stories like that are becoming harder to hold on to. I recently heard about a teacher who spent evenings grading papers after putting her children to bed. She bought classroom supplies with her own money. She stayed late helping struggling students prepare for tests. And years after dedication, she left the profession. Not because she stopped caring, not because she didn't love teaching, but because the financial reality made it too difficult to stay. And stories like that should concern all of us. Teaching requires a college degree, specialized certification, ongoing training, and countless hours of work outside the classroom. Yet in the West Bend School District, the average teacher salary is estimated to be around $52,000 to $54,000 per year. However, West Bend does not exist in isolation. Our district competes with nearby districts like Slinger and Germantown, where salaries are often higher. And this challenge isn't just local, it's statewide. Across Wisconsin, about 1/3 of teaching positions are considered hard to fill. When experienced teachers leave for better opportunities and leave the profession entirely, our students lose something that cannot easily be replaced. They lose the teacher who knows how to reach the quiet student in the back of the classroom. They lose mentors who help new teachers grow. And they lose the stability that strong schools are built on. The West Bend School District serves nearly 5,800 students, and every one of those students deserves experienced, passionate educators who feel valued and supported in their work. Improving teacher pay isn't just about salaries. It's about showing teachers that their dedication matters. It's about making sure talented educators choose to build their careers here in West Bend. And most importantly, it's about investing in our students, because great schools are not built by buildings or budgets alone, they're built by people. The teachers who arrive early in the morning, the teachers who stay late to help struggling students, the teachers who believe in our kids, even when those kids struggle to believe in themselves. If we truly value education in West Bend, then we must value the people who make it possible. Because when we invest in teachers, we invest in students. And when we invest in students, we invest in the future of our entire community. Thank you.
Nicole Mooney is up next, followed by Craig Barnes.
Hello, my name is Nicole Mooney, and I'm speaking tonight as a member of the West Bend Education Association. This is my 19th year in the district. As I've gained experience and become a veteran teacher, I have served in ways to help move my school and this district forward. I have mentored student teachers and new teachers. I have been on the building leadership team. I've led PLCs and goal teams. I feel that I have value to this district. That is why it saddens me that the district has capped teacher salaries once we've reached veteran status. I have open enrolled my child into the district, and my family is currently looking to purchase a house in this community. And while I would like to work here another 19 years, I understand that with this current compensation formula, the longer I work here, the lower my long-term earning potential will be due to the tiered base wage increases. If we, as veteran teachers, invest our professional and financial futures in the district should invest in veteran teachers. Thank you.
Craig Barnes, followed by Angie Dvorak.
My name is Craig Barnes, and I'm speaking tonight as a member of the West Bend Education Association. I have been a teacher for this district for 32 years, a resident in the community for 54 years, a parent of children who've attended this district for over 20 years. I've taught children of current school board members. My wife has even babysat for a current school board member. I've concerned that the district seems to be ashamed of my longevity. My years of service, I've endured pay freezes, lowest possible wage increases all over the past 10 years. Every year it becomes more and more difficult for me to keep up with the cost of living. I've dedicated my whole career to this school district. I've had countless second jobs to try to make ends meet. I've been a limousine driver for 10 years, a group home counselor for the elderly and disabled for 5 years, worked for several landscape companies, just to name a few. I am hopeful, or just naive enough to have hope, that when you plan the budget for next year this spring, you will not forget about the foundation that holds this district together. I thank you for your time.
Up next will be Jennifer Schrouth after Angie Dvorak.
My name is Angie Dvorak, and I'm speaking tonight as a member of the West Bend Education Association. I have a growing concern about salaries. As a former member of a much larger district, I had a salary based on steps and lanes, something the union worked hard to bring back after Act 10. I knew making the change to a smaller district would come with a major income adjustment, but I didn't know that I would not even be receiving a cost of living increase each year. Additionally, I didn't know that my salary would be capped, and the only way I could increase it would be to invest more money in my education. I already have a master's degree and 4 additional licenses with additional credits. I urge this board to consider how the district makes wage increase decisions. Teachers' salaries are capped while administrators have no salary ceiling. I understand that the job requirements are different for these 2 positions, but why would an administrator at the top of the pay scale be receiving the largest wage increase while those of us that are capped receive the least amount? Wage increases seem to be an afterthought each year, which is disappointing. We need to consider how to keep our veteran teachers and how to use our budget in a way that supports the teachers that we do have. If we don't make a change, we will continue to lose good teachers to other districts with more structured compensation and wage models. We have time to make a change for next year and years to come. Please do so. Thank you.
All right, after Jennifer will be Jenny Orth.
My name is Jennifer Schrout, and I am speaking tonight as a member of the West Bend Education Association. I'd like to take a moment to address teacher compensation, something that directly affects the lives of those who show up every day to care for our students. Like many families, teachers are feeling the strain of rising costs. Everyday expenses continue to rise. In my own family, healthcare costs alone have made a significant impact on our budget. Like many educators, we're working hard to make everything balance, which proves challenging when salary increases don't keep pace with the cost of living. As an educator, I always put my students first. I've never hesitated to buy pencils or have snacks on hand for students that might need them. Although those moments aren't part of my job description, they're simply a part of caring for the kids in my classroom. As costs continue to rise and wages struggle to keep up, these small acts become harder. I want to show my students these small ways of caring, but financial reality is making it much more difficult. This conversation is also about feeling valued. I work hard every day to make sure my students learn, feel seen, supported, and appreciated. In many ways, my colleagues and I are simply asking that the district do the same for us. The timing of compensation also matters. When pay is not determined until midway through the year, it makes financial planning extremely difficult. I would never encourage my own children to sign a contract without knowing what they're going to be making, what their financial stability would look like. Yet each year, that's exactly what teachers are asked to do. Teachers will continue to show up for the kids every day because that's who we are. We care about our kids, their success, their futures, and this community. We're simply asking for this board and the district to do the same for us. Thank you.
Okay, Jenny Orth.
Hi, I'm Jenny Orth. I'm a member of the WBEA. I just have to start, so I have enough time. All right. So for the past 5 years, I have received a roughly 1% annual raise. On the surface, a raise is supposed to be a positive thing. It suggests growth, recognition, and appreciation for the work we do. But when we look beyond the number on the paper and compare it to the world outside, a stark and frankly unsustainable reality emerges. Over the same 5 years that I've received a 1% raise, the average cost of living, the price of groceries, mortgages, transportation, healthcare, utilities, college degrees, has consistently risen by approximately 3% per year. This isn't an abstract economic figure. It is a direct calculation of financial loss. Let's do the simple math. Every single year, my income has lagged behind by essential expenses by a deficit of 2% per percentage points. As my husband is also an employee in the district, this hits our family twice as hard. A 3% increase in the cost of survival means 1% increase in my ability to survive, leaves me, and likely all of you, 2% poorer every 12 months. This is not stagnation. This is a consistent, compounding financial decline. Over 5 years, that cumulative gap is not insignificant. It means that to maintain the exact same standard of living I had in the first year, I have to work harder, budget tighter, sacrifice more each year just to break even with yesterday's reality. For me, it means teaching summer school, being an internal coach for PBIS, serving on the district's wellness committee, driving for DoorDash, working farmers markets, and judging forensics meets, just to break even. For my husband, it means coaching football, being his department chair, serving as a mentor, just to break even. This deficit is compounded by another concerning trend in our compensation structure. We see that the administrative staff often receive increases that factor in seniority, leading to higher raises as their tenure grows. Yet for the teaching staff, the exact opposite appears to be true. We are increasingly penalized or overlooked for our long-term commitment, experience, and expertise. We are the same people who are serving on these district committees, holding coaching positions, leading out in-services, and yet we're not recognized financially for these contributions. We are not asking for a windfall. We are asking for an honest reflection of our contributions relative to the real-world cost of existence. We deserve a compensation structure that acknowledges that we are professionals whose time and skills are increasing in value, not decreasing. So I stand here today not just to express frustration, can you tell, but to call for a genuine commitment to linking our compensation to the economic realities that we all face and ensuring our structure rewards and not punishes loyalty and expertise. We need a raise that allows us to thrive, not just barely survive.
Up next is Laura Kusek, followed by Nikki Williams.
Good evening. My name is Laura Cusick, and I'm a teacher in this district. I'm here to speak about teacher raises and the inequities I have observed over the past several years. There appears to be a pattern in this district where the longer teachers remain here, the less they are valued financially. This becomes clear in the way raises are structured. Once teachers reach a certain point in their careers within the district, a salary cap is effectively created. When raises are given, they are limited to a very small percentage that does not reflect experience, commitment, or rising costs. I have been in the district for 13 and a half years. While that may not be the longest tenure among our staff, it is long enough to see how the system works. I am still receiving one of the lowest percentage increases, which is consistent within how raises have been structured here. What I struggle to understand, however, is the difference in how teachers are treated compared to district office staff. District office employees receive consistent cost of living increases, while teachers do not receive raises that even keep a pace with inflation. I am a teacher with a master's degree, yet I'm not even being paid in a way that reflects the value of that education or the work that I do. At the same time, my expenses continue to rise. My medical costs increase every year. I can expect to pay about $3,000 out of pocket each year for medical expenses alone. That amount directly comes off the top of my salary. The cost of living has increased dramatically. My grocery bills has doubled. Electricity, gas, and water prices have gone up. That raise that was provided this year does not even come close to covering those increases. That means I will continue paying more out of pocket and effectively falling further behind financially. Some educators work 2 or even 3 jobs to support themselves. I would ask you to consider how many district office employees need to work multiple jobs to make ends meet. Teachers dedicate their time, energy, and expertise to the students and families in this district. If the district truly values its teachers, that appreciation needs to be reflected in meaningful, competitive, and fair compensation. Thank you for your time.
Nikki Williams, followed by Mark Drake.
Good evening. My name is Nikki Williams, and I'm speaking as a member of the WBEA. For 26 years, I have served as a special education teacher in this district. I love this work, and I love my students. But I need to address this troubling disconnect. Despite holding 2 degrees and a master's, I work 3 additional jobs. Shout out to Flip's Donut Truck, I tutor, and I bartend for events. Outside of school, just to support my family. Teaching is mentally, emotionally, and physically draining. I'm exhausted. The cost of living has far outpaced my salary growth. What's so troubling is the disparity in how our district prioritizes compensation. Administrative staff have received annual pay increases from $5,000 to $30,000 in a year. Teachers received a maximum of $1,000 to $1,300 this year. Support staff received 45 to 50 cents per hour this year. We're facing a critical shortage of qualified staff, yet we undervalue these essential positions. Worse, the longer you serve our district, the smaller your raise becomes, sending a message that loyalty is not rewarded. I leave you with 3 questions. 1, why is administrative staff given substantially larger raises than teachers and support staff? 2, why does a salary cap exist for teachers and not for administration? And 3, do you truly value educators who make excellence possible? And do you want them to stay? Thank you for your time.
Mark Drake, followed by John Chamberlain.
Good evening. My name is Mark Drake, and I've been employed by the West Bend School District for 21 years as a teacher, coach, and co-curricular advisor. Today, I'm also speaking as a member of the West Bend Education Association. This past week, AAA reported that the national price of a gallon of regular gasoline increased by almost 27 cents in the week. AAA Wisconsin reported that the average price was up almost 38 cents a gallon, and the average price of gas in Washington County is nearly 3 cents per gallon higher than the state average. CNBC reported on Friday that the S&P 500 lost 2% of its value from the start of the week. The USDA's Food Price Outlook report published last month said that in the last year, food prices rose 2.9%. This economic uncertainty affects every district employee with a vehicle, a refrigerator, and a retirement account. And we don't need the national media to tell us this. We can feel this at home. Extra work that I did outside of my job this summer didn't even cover the whole cost of my dog's vet bill. It would be nice to receive a raise, or at least a cost of living increase to keep pace with the bills. For our teachers, this hasn't happened this year, nor for the past several years. Our district regularly, consciously pays teachers less than the cost of living year after year, while administrators regularly, consciously get paid thousands more. This purposeful economic split has regrettably contributed in part to a culture void and a lack of trust. Every year we say we're rowing in the same direction. Every meeting, we're told we're all working towards tiered support or higher student test scores. What we project about unity and what many of us feel about unity are 2 separate things. The prevailing thought seems to be that if teachers get something, anything, they should just take it and be happy with it. But why should less than the minimum make us happy? While the district has started to identify a gap, their current solutions to increase teacher support are lacking. In some cases, they are impersonal, and they do nothing to address the disparity in pay. Either we need to actually mean it, that we're all on the same team, working together, being respected the same, and being given the same salary increases, or we need to admit that the fissure exists with no desire to completely and concretely repair it. It shouldn't matter your position or where you are in the salary scale. We all help our kids. We all have to pay for gas and food. We should all get the same increase. And finally, to quote the greatest Canadian handyman on PBS, I'm pulling for you. We're all in this together.
All right. John Chamberlain, and then Stacy Beltman will be up next.
My name is John Chamberlain Jr., although I've always gone by Jack, and I am speaking tonight as a member of the West Bend Education Association. Something, maybe it was Act 10, or maybe it was some earlier erosion of trust, has hampered the ability of the WBEA to fully negotiate with the West Bend Joint School District Number 1. I'm here tonight to request that those lines of communication be fully reopened. Wisconsin has a long history of mutually beneficial relationships between the public trust and labor unions. It would be a positive thing indeed to hear a different refrain in the coming years, that negotiations were proactive and productive. Additionally, I'm here to appeal to reason, as many before me have. Employee salaries need to at least increase at the rate of the cost of living. As a consumer, I need to have the buying power I did the year before. And it's unsettling to make this point aloud. But currently, falling short of this baseline expectation seems to be the norm. This cost of living increase, as others have noted, has not happened in several years, and from this I see three major potential costs to the district. Number one, teachers feel undervalued. For my part, I've observed much fanfare about auxiliary benefits rather than salary changes. Nothing makes me feel as valued as salary increases. Cost to the district number two, teachers experience problems with morale. Again, for my part, the seismic steps and lanes setback of Act 10 and the COVID-era perceptions, perhaps only by some portions of society, that teachers were little better than babysitters, put dents in my sense of professional esteem. Annual cost of living increases are one way to start to offset those perceptions of self. Cost to the district number three, should a loss of value and/or morale get serious enough, the district could lose experienced teachers. I hope there is still a premium placed by our community on teacher experience. The quality of the relationships created with students, the caliber of the education those students receive, and the ability to manage a classroom are all functions of experience. Please consider both a fuller commitment to negotiating with the WBEA and starting those negotiations annually with a cost of living increase. Thank you.
Okay, Stacy Beltman, and then next up will be Allison Guzan.
Hello, my name is Stacy Beltman. I have taught for the West Bend School District for the past 18 years. I am speaking today in my role as member of the WBEA. I'm standing in front of you to remind you that I am here. Remember me and those seated here, speaking here with me. So when you build the next budget, you'll be sure to include money for teacher compensation that matches CPI. Having watched board meetings in the past, there's been plenty of people advocating and approving money for buildings and technology, so they don't experience deferred maintenance. Dollars to teacher salaries have always been deferred. In the building, I open the door, I turn on the computer, I prepare the lesson, I deliver it to young people. Stop funding me last. Thank you.
Okay, Allison Guzan, followed by Mindara Kruger-Olson.
Hello, my name is Allison Guzan, and I'm speaking as the Vice President of the WBEA. In my family, we have a budget. We have a balanced budget. Every month, we sit down to allocate where money should go. And if we're allowed, we set a little bit aside. Maybe I can have a date night. Maybe I can take my son to a museum. Maybe we could actually have a family dinner out on the town or experience something new. I set aside money so I can put it back into what I value the most, my family. Our district works in a similar way. You sit down yearly, set aside money that's going into technology, building upkeep, admin salary increases, and then there's this little sliver that's left over. That little slice is what the teachers get, the leftovers. When I balance my budget, I look and see how I can put the most value into my family. Where can I get the most out of my budget in order to put that value back into what matters to me the most? In our district, what is the biggest value? Our teachers. Our 2026-2027 budget is not set yet. You have the opportunity now to increase your budget, and that includes a cost of living increase for all teachers. A cost of living increase for the 2026 is 2.63% for all teachers. From teachers who have worked here for 5 years, those who have worked here much longer. Put value into what matters the most in our district. Invest in the people who make our district's mission possible, the teachers.
Okay, next up, Mindara Kruger Olson, and then followed by Haley Doherty.
Hello. My name is Mindara Krieger Olson, and I am speaking tonight as a member of the West Bend Education Association. In August of 2023, I had the privilege of being offered the position of high school orchestra director at WBHS, which was a dream come true for me, truly. Though through being employed here, I have coached students to being awarded an exemplary recognition at State Solo and Ensemble, collaborated with my incredible colleagues, both vertically within the orchestra program in grades 5 through 12 and horizontally with my music department colleagues at WBHS. And last year, I even led a group of approximately 30 students to an international performance tour in Spain. As you can tell, I pour a lot of love into this job, just as every single educator in this district does. However, as I analyze my 5-year plan as a young teacher, I grow increasingly concerned about my financial future if I continue to work in this school district. Witnessing veteran teachers in this district needing additional employment just to make ends meet and provide for their families is alarming. Eventually, I would love to own a home of my own, get married, and start a family. The fact that the WBEA is here today asking for you to consider giving all teachers in this district wage increases that are at least on par with the increase in cost of living makes it difficult for me to see how these basic goals can be reached as an employee of the West Bend School District. I hope that the school board will consider matching or exceeding the Consumer Price Index, CPI for short, for the increase in teacher wages during future budget discussions. For the 2025-26 school year, the CPI increase was 2.95%, while the average wage increase for teachers in the WBSD was 1.72%. The difference in these percentages, 1.23%, shows that teachers in the West Bend School District are undervalued. Hopefully, in the 2026-27 school year, teachers in this district will be able to see wage increases that are on par or that exceed the Consumer Price Index for that year. If the school board makes this change, the district will see teachers who feel more comfortable financially, and this relief will translate into teachers who are more present, more joyful, and more passionate because they know that their needs outside of work are taken care of. Thank you.
Okay, next is Haley Doherty, and then next will be Tanya Lohr.
Hello, my name is Haley Doherty. I'm a high school English teacher, a West Bend resident, and I'm speaking tonight as part of my role as a West Bend Education Association Executive Board member. Tonight I echo and try my best to reinforce what many of my wonderful and qualified colleagues have already said. If our district wants to continue to keep the experienced and distinguished teachers that make the teaching and learning happen, then our salaries need to keep up with the cost of living. The prices of groceries, utilities, and our health insurance and other essentials continue to rise, but our salaries are not keeping up with those prices. I'm losing money by staying in teaching. When other companies can provide cost of living adjustments to their employees, but school districts can't, teachers don't look to move districts, but change professions. If our district wants to continue to do what's best for kids, that includes paying their teachers a livable wage. Thank you.
Okay, last on my list is Tanya Lohr.
Hi, my name is Tanya Lohr, and I have taught in the district for 27 years. Tonight I am speaking in my role as the extremely proud president of the West Bend Education Association. It is so incredible to look around this room and see all of the amazing teachers we have in the West Bend School District. They are truly amazing. Our community is fortunate to have so many remarkable teachers in front of kids each and every day. What we don't talk about enough is the true impact these amazing teachers have on student achievement. The research is clear about this impact. Study after study shows that the most important predictor of student success is the quality of the teacher in the classroom. One such study found that the impact of having a quality teacher exceeded a full grade level of annual achievement growth for kids. Another study found that when it comes to student performance in reading and math, teachers are estimated to have 2 to 3 times the effect on scores as any other school factor, including services, facilities, and even leadership. And yet another study concluded, compared to any other aspect of schooling, teachers have the greatest impact on student achievement. I would surmise that this is why, when students come home from school, they talk about the quality of their teacher rather than the quality of their textbooks. And yet, what districts, including ours, continue to invest tens of millions of dollars in year after year are new curriculums instead of veteran teachers. According to Hattie, everyone's favorite, an important factor in increasing student learning is changing the culture of education. So teachers are excited about teaching, leading to students who are excited about learning. But it's tough to be excited about teaching when you have to go to a second or even a third job once school is over just to fill in the gaps created by a lagging teaching salary. And it's tough to be excited about teaching when it feels like your well-being and the well-being of your family is the lowest priority of your employer. So what if we put stock in the research and invested in our teachers first, and then decided how much money was left to purchase new curriculum and technology? What if instead of throwing teachers the scraps at the end of the budget, we started it by making sure teachers got increases that allowed for them to purchase at least the same amount of food this year as they did the year before, instead of the scraps? A common phrase used by administrators is to do something because it's what's best for kids. So now it's time to turn that phrase back to you. The research is clear. What's best for kids is to have quality teachers with enough time and enough energy to help each student reach their full potential. If this becomes our focus, if we adopt policies and compensation that truly attracts and retains quality teachers to our schools, student achievement will soar. And that's a goal we can all get behind. Thank you.
Okay, that is all the cards that I have tonight. Thank you all for coming. We have reached the consent agenda. Items include minutes of the February 23rd, 2026 regular board meeting, 4 contracts, 2 resignations, 1 retirement, Medicaid processing service agreement, traffic impact analysis contract for Green Tree, capital maintenance projects, West Bend Youth Football Organization donation, technology projects, early college credit program course request, Start College Now course request, and disbursements posted to February 27th, 2026. Are there any questions regarding items on the consent agenda? Okay. Hearing none, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a second? Thank you, Joe. I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have now reached the report section of the agenda, and I would like to welcome Tim Harder, Director of Facilities and Technology.
Sorry, I thought it was second on the agenda. I didn't think it was first.
Oh, you're up first. Tim Harder is going to provide us with a construction report.
All right. So the warm weather makes you feel like we could really start construction today. So we took advantage of some outside stuff today. Probably the biggest update I have for the board is with our work related to Green Tree and Silverbrook on the civil or the outside work. So over the past couple of weeks, we've worked with our partners at EUA, Findorf, Kapur, and Huffman Keel to submit our application to the City of West Bend and the Plan Commission to review the upgraded parking lot and drop-off area for safe and secure drop-off at Green Tree, and then a reconfigured rear area of the loading dock and safety for delivery at Silverbrook at that point in time. This evening, you approved a contract for a traffic impact analysis that's required by the city as we look at moving driveways and so forth up by Green Tree. We will present that back to the city, and then we'll be in front of the Plan Commission in the future for their approval. So that is my report this evening.
Excellent, thank you. Very exciting, continuing hearing more about this. Next up, I would like to welcome Lenny Hansen, Assistant Superintendent, who will provide us with a financial report.
All right, I have a brief report today, just one item. It's our monthly performance review. A few just key highlights before we jump into the data, which you can look over more. In terms of expenses, this report goes through January, so we start to get a better picture of utilities around this point, right? So we're getting through more than half of the winter. I'll knock on wood about that at this point. We have seen higher than typical heating gas costs this year, which Mr. Harder is well aware of. Probably about 8% above the typical rate that we would have expensed the budget by this point. That's not a surprise with the amount of extreme cold days that we saw during December and January. So we're watching that, but conversely, as I note here, we're actually seeing lower than typical electricity costs. So kind of hoping that those two can kind of offset each other this year, because we have been, pretty concerned about where heating gas costs were going. So the electricity piece is helping us out a little bit over in that space. On the revenue side, you'll see that local revenue is higher than is typical at this point, and I'll just scroll down to that section down here. You can see, well, on your own screen you can, that it's showing a lot higher percentage of received revenue as far as a percentage of the budget for this point in the year. That's really an accounting nuance. So later in the spring, we book funds that are for the Fund 39 debt service, as well as for the Community Service Fund, from Fund 10 over to Fund 39 and Fund 80. So when they first come in, they're in Fund 10, so they're showing as a larger than typical amount received, but that'll actually correct itself as some journal entries and things take place. So we're actually, when we look at all of our revenue sources, we're pretty much right on track with where we would expect to be at this point in the year. If I jump back up to expenditure, and there we go. We're exact, as far as percent of the budget expensed at this point this year, we're sitting very nice compared to prior years. So no concerns about the pace of spending at this point in any area. And revenue, as I will get to the cash flow section in a moment, we're hitting past that low point that we always talk about in the year. So now you're going to see a lot higher, percentage of local revenue received. There's more federal claims coming in, so you'll see more federal revenue and all those sorts of things. When you do look at federal revenue, please remember that last year in September was the final claim on ESSER dollars. So that does skew last year's federal dollars. So I wouldn't put too much stock in that. I would actually look at the preceding years. And you can see it fluctuates quite a bit, and it's really due to the timing of when you make claims to the federal government for various grants and things like that. But revenue is on track with where we would anticipate. Cash flow, like I said, we've made it through that low point in the year. We'll continue to climb, which is the normal trend. As you can see, we're at this point in the year so far. And then total fund balances, as always, are summarized here. The last item I'll just draw attention to is we have added another element to the monthly report that you'll see now. I've put together a financial compliance report, and what we've done is compile all of the major reporting that has to be done through the Business and Human Resources Office as part of either state, local, federal reporting. And we'll continue to update this each month, but it shows you, the volume of reporting that is required by the government, but also just where we are on all of those reports, ensuring that we're checking all the boxes in terms of compliance. So you'll see this in each month's report moving forward. And then we also included a section around whether bank reconciliations for each month had been completed, which we're on track with that right now. We're in the midst of reconciling February right now, which is where we expect to be. So that is the entirety of that report, and I'll entertain any questions.
Lenny, just looking at the different fund balances, the food service, would we expect that to go negative at some point?
So food service and community service go negative around this point in the year because of claims for revenue that still have to come in on the food service side. So that's pretty typical for this point in the year. And it's not actually a negative because it sits in the district's general checking account. So it's floated with all of the funds that we have. But that's pretty typical for food service to show that. And then community service as well at this point, because again, that's those local tax revenues that come in once they're booked over to Fund 80, then balances it back out. So, and then I did include a note around that down here as well, which I include every month just because some of those funds are much more cyclical. Like Fund 39, you'll see no revenue all year, and then boom, there's one transfer that takes place and the whole thing is received.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much for that. Next up is the superintendent's report. And Superintendent Jen Wimmer will provide us with her report.
Sure. Just a reminder that everyone has 1 week to complete Rolf's Education Foundation Awards and Support Employee of the Year Award nominations. These awards recognize outstanding contributions to the district by our dedicated staff members. Nominations can be submitted by any employee, community member, parent, or any student in 9th through 12th grade. So just go to the website for more information, but again, that deadline is coming up. I was happy last week to go to Maury's Honda to accept a generous donation and a giant check on behalf of our schools. Donations were made by their staff and customer of Maury's, and then the dealership doubled the amount and dedicated it to support families with financial needs related to their school lunches. So thank you to Maury's and our community. I want to recognize East freshman Evan Kemps. He is one of a kind. He has been selected to be the one and only Wisconsin representative for the FBI National Academy of Youth Leadership Camp in Virginia this summer. So just one student per state is chosen for the camp, and this year, Wisconsin, it will be Evan. So the camp provides high school students with an immersive advanced leadership training experience that is designed to build skills, resilience, and a commitment to service and social responsibility among new leaders. So congratulations to Evan, and thank you representing not just West Bend, but our state. And I just wanted to thank our WBSD Way partners. They had their annual community breakfast last week, and it was a huge success. The event is held to thank businesses and other local organizations that partner with us to reward students out in the community exhibiting the WBSD way. So thank you to our partners who are able to attend, and thank you for assisting us with the important program on behalf of all of our schools. Speaking of one of those community partners, stop by Dunn Brothers Coffee. They are displaying artwork by Badger students through April 6th. So that's at Dunn Brothers Coffee. Now, they put that tongue twister of a fishing club in theirs, and they've also put that in mine too. So we're gonna see how I do. But as Bella mentioned, our West Bend High School Students Fishing Club had some really big accomplishments recently. So I want to highlight the club because it's an example of what a dedicated advisor, so Teacher Brian Johnson, who's trying to retire from that, and we won't let him, and equally dedicated parent advisors when they come together for our students. So this was the first time the team competed at the Wisconsin Interscholastic Fishing Association State Ice Fishing Championship. You may have seen the team featured in the Washington County Daily News, along with Hartford and Kewaskum teams. So, of course, Bella said that 2 of our students received some accolades. Those were the tongue twisters. I'm skipping those. But not only did Brandon Eifert get catch and release state record brown trout, but during the event, he caught 14 fish, everything from northern pike to king salmon and a largemouth bass. So he was record-setting in his fishing expedition. So students had a great time. They made memories both on and off the ice and learned a ton. Every year they gain skills and get more and more competitive as they kind of stretch their skills from sport into that competition realm. So congratulations, and again, thank you to our advisors and our community members who help out with that. That concludes my report.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Moving to discussion on the agenda, there is one discussion item this evening, and Superintendent Wimmer is going to provide us feedback regarding the high school schools configuration.
Good evening. So we have been engaged with our community around our high school's configuration. Just to remind and orient everyone, maybe they're tuning in for the first time, around where we are in this process. It started in fall with some board learning, and only then did we proceed into what we're calling the engagement phase. So now we're in that kind of reviewing the engagement feedback thus far. And that positions the board to take any action in spring. Okay, so that's just a review of where we are. I went over this a little bit more comprehensively at our last meeting, but this slide is just summarizing some of the engagement efforts, whether it was online surveys, community conversations, student or staff focus groups. We've been out there over kind of that last 6 weeks or so, engaging with families and community and students. Any questions on some of those efforts? I know we went through it more in depth last meeting. Okay. We held 2 community meetings. I think there were 64, 65 people. The first meeting was a little bit more well attended. But in that forum, I'll kind of speak to those. The format was much like we did with the referendum that was well received. The spring before, we foreshadowed to our community we're going to step into kind of looking at this process, and they were instrumental in helping us frame what engagement efforts should look like. They spoke positively about that format and did so on our exit tickets after our community session. So in that forum, we kind of do a little info part, and we broke that into the same parts that the board had seen previously around athletics, academics, et cetera, some financial implications, and then had a lot of time at tables to talk. Here with us tonight, I'll just shout out, but I won't force them to answer questions. Executive Principal Jen Potter. I saw Associate Principal Dave Ullman is behind there. And then Assistant Principals Jared Kiesau, Dave Riley, Bob Feldkamp are here. So all of our administrators, not just the high school team, but any administrator or coordinator in the district, took a position at a table so that we were readily accessible to answer questions. So we gave a little bit of info, had table discussion with them, and then we went through kind of any question that they asked, answered those there. There are some follow-up ones, and then took their feedback as well. So we synthesized the feedback pieces. That's what you see here tonight, is some of those major themes, really talking about some of the same drivers I've heard the board talk about, making sure we're prioritizing opportunities for students, whether they were academic, athletic, co-curricular, making sure that was at the forefront of the feedback back to the board that you were receiving. So how that structure looks like, that's where people, had different opinions and different backgrounds and different pieces, but really looking at what that meant. And then there was some things to disrupt around some enrollment pieces, around, that choice. School choice was introduced in 1999 in the state, and then we have interdistrict choice as well as open enrollment and some of those influences. And couldn't we just shut that down? And it's like, well, there is a wider net of school choice, so really talking about some of those pieces. So these were the largest elements, and in the, I'll have it in the other slides, but we have a website that will be uploaded over the course of this week, now that we have this, with these slides, this presentation, and then by each, the community forum, the questions, common questions, those answers, as well as linked in here are the survey, the electronic survey, all of those comments. So all of those will be uploaded over the course of the week. She'll start loading those, like I said, this slide deck, this presentation. So we'll encourage people to get out and look at those updates too, so that they can see not just this high-level synthesis, but kind of get in the weeds and look at all those comments that frames this. Any question about community meetings or kind of that experience? I think largely it was a really nice opportunity. I saw a lot of residents who maybe had been part of the conversations in the past, or a lot of people who haven't had kids in the school district for quite a while. So getting to learn what it looks like now, because that's evolved over time, and then being happy to contribute to what the future could look like as well. We spent time not just in focus groups with the student leaders, but then we also, Ralph Schloss, community engagement, and I went over and spent all the lunch hours with Badger as well as East and West students. So we've broken that out because there's a nuance between how Badger students are feeling about their future versus students who are sitting in those high schools right now and experiencing that. These were just anecdotal. We would go to a table, we did a promo video, everyone let all the kids know that we were coming, and we gave them a little background, like, hey, did you know about our school, and how it's kind of developed, and we're gonna come in and ask you what you think. And so we would just kind of go and sit down at a table and talk, like, what do you think? 1, 2, do you not have an opinion? What questions do you have? So you can see kind of where their preference, and it was interesting because almost to a T, I could go to any table, whether it was Badger or the high school. Why do you want 1 or 2 schools? And a lot of them predominantly will say sports. I want 1. school for sports. We want to be competitive. We want to do this. We want to do that. I want 2 for sports because I need to ensure that I have an opportunity to play sports, all of that. So we tried to capture that dynamic around some of their feedback. But a lot of, from Badger especially, leaning on that rich tradition, maybe their generational families, and, oh, my parents went here and this, and I love that, or I've heard about, or I've gone to homecoming, I've done these things, or why is it we do all this together and then, like, you make us pick, and some express kind of feeling the weight of picking, and then we have to kind of battle against each other kind of thing. But it was a really nice opportunity to talk about questions, and we had a really good session with student council. There was quite a large number of students in their student council talking about just a little bit about everything, including this topic. Any questions about kind of how that feedback was gathered from the students and their thoughts? And I explained to them it's not a vote today, so whatever you say today doesn't mean this is what the board's gonna pick, and they're following. I said, there's no pressure here. You also have the survey opportunity. I said, but we just wanna see where people are thinking and what your feedback is. Same thing for East and West. We went to all lunch hours. They promoted our visit, both with a video at their class meetings, and then we visited the lunch hours the week prior in anticipation, and then we would just kind of work those tables. Same thing, especially at the high school, you get them like, do not change what I'm living today. And that's what it is. That's really a nuance for the high school. Don't make me change, and that is very real. I talk with kids around, hey, it's not Freaky Friday. You're not going to wake up, one morning and your whole world changed. If something changes, like, that's a big, long process that kicks off, following any decision. So we really talked about, they had some great questions. They had great perspective. I, with the adult mind, was thinking like, oh, together graduation would be that much longer. And kids were telling me, you mean we could graduate together? We spend our whole lives together in this, and then like this major milestone, we have to be separated. And it was just that difference of perspective in the students who are living that and feeling that. They love their rivalry. Love it. That is a huge tradition, and it's so funny because some kids were like, well, who would we play for homecoming? They could not fathom that other schools maybe don't play themselves for homecoming. That might be something that's unique to us. We talked about crosstown rivals. They love the rivalry. We talked about sometimes in other schools, it's kind of that upper-lower classmen thing. What does that exist? They don't want to lose anything around the things that they feel are, traditions, deeply held traditions. And like I said, that rivalry comes through. We see it all the time. No one plays harder except when they play each other in that week leading up to homecoming. So they really do love the spirit of that. With that, some did say they would appreciate getting a win on homecoming and not having to go to the dance and face their competitors, having lost a game. But you can see some difference. And again, that theme of I want one or the other based on sports, but for very different reasons of that. So they had very unique perspectives. We had a lot of students fill in the survey too that we'll go through. Any questions around some of the student feedback, how we gathered it, or things that they were expressing?
Did you notice in your 219 preferring one high school versus the 345, was the 219 your senior class being like, doesn't matter, and 345s the juniors being like, 1 year? Or was it across the board?
We didn't make them disclose their grade levels, but that's where you would get it, where we're like, well, we want this. And then they're like, well, after that, we don't mind. After us, we don't mind. So like, we want what we have right now, but after us, you could do something different. Like I said, it's really around, how big of a change that would be for kids and what that would really look like. I said, if anyone changes anything, I said, you would be absolutely involved. And then there was that excitement of, you mean we could pick a color or mascot? We could, we'd be involved in that? I'm like, yeah. We don't play around. We don't ask you questions that we don't intentionally want your feedback and your thoughts on, and if anything changed, we would come right back to you and do that. I really talked with them quite a bit about that. Nothing set. There was just a lot of rumors around. We had to go in and like, no, it's not a done deal. Like, they're like, well, I heard this is done. I'm like, no, this board is really committed to listening to all these different avenues and voices around what this experience is and what it would mean if any change were to occur. So they were really thoughtful about that. And then explaining that while there's a 7-member board, it's not just 7 people who make a decision. They have to represent their community. I said they take that job really seriously. They're elected. I said that you won't see them sit up there and look at everyone's feedback and go, but I'm going to do this anyway. So explaining that to students, like I said, highly engaged. It was a fantastic week. Just talking with kids and getting connected on the topic. So I think they felt really excited about that. We also had a staff session. It mimicked the community session. And again, really, many of our staff members are community members as well. So they can come to the community session as staff members, or we also hold a staff one for any staff member. It looked and mimicked the same. We spent a little less time on the academic and instructional program. They're so familiar with that. They know that it's the same. They know that 98% of their classes are commingled already with kids from both schools, so we didn't need to speak to that. A lot of coaches on staff, so that was really nice. They were talking about some of those pieces. And again, on both sides of that coin for athletics, right? We know that one's a really big piece where there's some separation, and there's already some co-op situations there, but they were able to kind of bring that perspective as coaches too. And kind of where they were. So, any questions on staff process? Staff were also invited to fill in the survey, so you'll see that as well when we unpack that, but this was their in-person. I did also gather, just for reference, it's 5 additional emails, but we maintain a district account, so if anyone outside the survey window emailed us, either to me or to that account, we captured those and synthesized that. I just wanted to put that disclaimer on there, that it's not representing the hundreds that you saw in the other slides. It is a standalone, but it was a separate venue of communication. So I'm just highlighting that piece for you. And then I think the largest piece was our survey. The first questions were developed around kind of who was filling out the survey. We wanted to make sure that we had representation from all stakeholders. So you can see we had 2,588 responses. You could check all that apply because you might be both a staff member and a parent. You might be an alumni plus you have some students here. So we encouraged everyone to kind of fill that in. So you're not going to get that to add up to 2,588. We asked how they were connected to the district, how long they had been in the district or had that connection, and then which schools they were affiliated with. And then just for reference, the last time we surveyed our community was in 2024, that referendum, and we received 1,609 responses from that survey. So just so you have that context. So that's the who participated. And then I'll just walk you through these questions. Again, the slides will be available for you to dig in, ask me questions at any point. But we asked around kind of, their thoughts and feelings. How important was it to continue operating both East and West on one campus, that identity piece? I'm gonna kind of move through these. If you need more time, just holler. And then there was, remember we had buckets, and then you had a segment of open-ended questions for everyone to kind of give feedback on that topic. So in this question specifically, I've got some summary points, but it was a real, and again, you're gonna hear this throughout, it's gonna be like a broken record. It's a mix of perspectives. So generally neutral, some slight divisions that you saw in some of those metrics, but they really emphasize the increased athletic participation and broader opportunities as a key benefit for having 2 schools. Others believe that combining the schools would strengthen athletics, community, and kind of unity and school spirit. So you'll have both believing kind of the same thing, but that one model or the other will provide that to you. So many people value the tradition, rivalry associated with two schools. Others may see it as a necessary step because of kind of declining enrollment or participation, or gaining some operational efficiency in there. So there were some pieces in here that talked about class size, teacher ratios, those pieces. I just want to reinforce this isn't connected to our teacher staff student ratio. It's not that any kind of different configuration would increase class size. So I just wanted to make sure that people weren't falsely connecting that. So overall, you'll continue to see that people hold opinions along the entire continuum of thought. So again, this is their perception of quality, like this is somehow making the experience better. And then that next one was around that bucket of academic programming, different recognition. So again, varied, no single dominant theme, but they talked about, there were comments around GPAs and different recognition systems. Some were making suggestions for weighted grades, which we do not have. So a little bit outside the scope of this, but taking that opportunity to provide feedback, which is fine. And talking about valedictorian, salutatorian. So remind you, per policy, whoever qualifies receives that recognition. We don't have a cap that it's a singular student in either school. So a lot really keying in that these are the some of the pieces that, again, lift school spirit, create identity, that there may be some drawbacks in any kind of consolidation. Few mentioned the value of career technical education, instructional consistency, teacher quality. Again, our instructional program is already combined. So our kids have full access to the same academic program. Our teachers, while they might identify as East or West, their classes are commingled with students. So I just wanted to make sure and reiterate that for our public. This is a satisfaction around clubs co-curriculars we're highlighting. I know our student reporters highlight those. I highlighted one tonight. I'll remind public, students, everyone, that our co-curricular program and clubs are also already combined. The one difference we have is that National Honor Society, because there's two high schools, they each have their own chapter. If they were combined, there's no limitation on that. Whoever receives eligibility can join that. So then we went through and talked about, I'll get to that question, around some pieces around co-curriculars, et cetera. Because also nested in there, you know, that kind of social experience. We have 2 courts for homecoming and prom. We have some opportunities that are kind of expanded because of that configuration. So again, that tradition kind of piece going with those. And again, I'll make a plug, anyone can request or work with an advisor to start a club. So if there's something that you feel is missing at the high school or even your other schools, just talk with your principal, or it's Mackenzie Welnack at the high school who oversees co-curriculars, and talk with her about your interests. That's generally how our clubs and co-curriculars start. A group of kids show interest and we kind of rally around and create that. So this was that open-ended section around co-curricular programs, those traditions. Again, they're seeing some benefits, expanding opportunities, maybe, you know, streamlining some traditions, that kind of thing. But this is where that legacy of, and they're largely together anyway. So when I talked with a student in band, like, well, like band is together, yep, choir's together, yep. They're like, oh, this wouldn't really impact me. When we talked with them, they were personalizing that impact. But they just talk about, you know, there's these things that are already combined, but these unique traditions, especially with our homecoming, where you're doing that whole matchup that whole week, is really important. Some talk about the importance of skill development or leadership opportunities, and would those be diminished in any way if any kind of configuration change. But in here you had kind of both optimism, maybe some potential improvements. But again, I would just want to reinforce, when it comes to that co-curricular program or those pieces, work those avenues right now. Talk with your administrators, because those are things that don't have to wait for this. Any questions thus far? And then on the bottom of each one of these open-ended, you can see a link. I've taken every single question. Each tab has that. There's 423 pages of direct comments, so you can see how that was distilled. So you can read all of those. A large piece, again, was awareness for people around what was already combined. Again, we had, I think we're approaching 17 teams that are already combined. A lot of people, especially in that community session where I had people who weren't necessarily associated with schools, but were largely community members, didn't have awareness of that. So we walked through that. And then our East competes as the Suns, West as the Spartans. How important was that to be on those separate teams? And for some people, you see, it's really still essential for them. And for some, you know, they might be already living some kind of combined experience, so that might be feeling a little less important. And then and this is a confusing one, so when Jen Potter and I were looking at it, we're like, we really need to point out, even though it's low scoring, student safety was the highest priority. One of the things for athletics when we were looking at the size of those teams or those experiences, again, we're already engaged in having football conversations with our youth teams that are coming up around their numbers, because we want to make sure, especially that our sports are safe, that I have enough kids to play, that I'm not putting 14-year-olds on the field with 18-year-olds that have a wildly different experience, that kind of thing. So you can see this is how in the survey they ranked those pieces. So again, student safety was of the highest priority. And in 14, again, you had mixed but really thoughtful perspectives on the questions. I can't thank our community enough for their responses, and you can see them. They're not just a couple words. They're really thoughtful contributions. So many talk about consolidating the athletic programs due to kind of that participation, improving competitiveness, and fostering a unified school identity. Some, however, expressed, again, that on the opposite end there, concerns that consolidation could reduce student opportunities, especially if we become a larger division, and it would diminish those long-standing traditions. So again, this is creating that opposite ends of the spectrum of feedback. A few highlighted need for better athletic facilities, attention to that athletic safety, and stronger youth feeder programs. So that came through in some comments. But also a mention of the impact of community cohesion and the importance of maintaining school pride, whether that's one or two, that whole pride piece came through. So overall, centering on balancing competitiveness, participation, and identity with any kind of future decision. Talked about some of the financial aspects related to the sports program. Those are the two pieces that are fundamentally different. So we went through those same slides and those pieces. And then we talked about and highlighted, just as the board saw, that if a change were made, you have to reinvest, whether it's expanding some pieces, it's rebranding, it's things like uniforms. We wanted to be upfront that there's costs associated with that. There aren't just automatically savings. So in that next one, any comments, concerns about the financials? So again, they talked about, and from our process, they appreciated the transparency, the engagement, clear communication about cost savings. We need to go in, there's additional questions around kind of like, how does that impact my taxes? What does that look like in staffing? What does it look like in some of these pieces? A little bit wider scope on some of the financial. So we'll flesh that out and put that on that webpage as well. They just talked about, what other costs, including administrative, et cetera, could be minimized or reduced. And then how do you preserve kind of that sense of identity, and talked about kind of fairness in rebranding. I talked more about kids because they were under the perception, or some people were like, you're just going to pick one if that were to happen. And we talked about actually if any change were made, we'd actually start an entire engagement process over and ask people thoughts, feelings, et cetera. And they're like, you mean we, and that's where I got the, you mean we could pick a different color? You mean we could pick that? Like, yes, We wouldn't just do that if there were a change. So cautious optimism, concern about what would change, how it would change, if there was a change. I talked about a lot with the kids. They didn't know the history of flipping a coin to the born on date to the, all those pieces. We talked about all different ways that could be. And I also talked a lot about with people around, this seems to be a cloud that hangs over the community because we're so unique and people don't know, like, when is the question called? Why is it called? And how will it hang over us? And so we even talked about just garnering this feedback around, so if it's a question that's going to recur, then what you really need to put together is, when is it called? Is it on a certain timeline? And I explained to people around kind of the evolution of our facilities work and how this question was in there and our commitment to bringing that question back. And people are like, oh, yeah, this kind of happens every 7 to 10 years kind of thing. So again, minimally, I'd be recommending what is a process for this and what are those triggers to have the conversation for there. So again, that's where you get people with concern, and then it's like, okay, no matter what happens, if nothing then when's it coming back, or that kind of thing. So I'd make some recommendations to you around that. Then we asked kind of what were, from their perspective, their top priorities when they think about the future of the high school. So again, a range of priorities in a really thoughtful and productive tone. I thought really no different than what we've heard from the board around protecting student participation and opportunities, whether it was academics, whether it was athletics. How do they protect that experience? Again, you have generational families here. They grew up here. They're choosing this again. You're a district that they're selecting. How do they make sure and not lose that piece? So that came through. Student safety, well-being were highlighted. And a lot of people really just talked about the value of having the strong academic programs, maintaining access to those pieces, as well as the athletics and co-curriculars. So, and then here it came through a little bit on some of the financial pieces too, like, hey, make sure you're being financially responsible in what you're doing. So again, preferences vary, but they focused on balancing tradition, student opportunities, and practical considerations that you might need to make. And then our closing question was sharing anything else that they wanted us to consider. So you can see those pieces. So overall feedback reflects a desire for thoughtful, inclusive, future-focused decision-making. So again, I heard over and over, whether it's the community session or kids, kids could have been you're coming to ask us. I got that after I got a lovely email from the advisor at Badger's student council. Kids walked away she came over to ask us what we think. She came over to just for us, and it's yep, we really mean it. So we really talked about, and you hear that stressing kind of what we've set as an expectation for input and feedback and engagement with anything that we do. So holding the line on that was a big consideration that they reinforced in that part of the survey. So kind of taking all those pieces thus far, again, this is just my synthesis around as we kind of work the board through this, prioritizing academic opportunities above structure, and then participation opportunities, that might be the athletics, the activities, and all of those pieces, and that sense of identity and legacy and traditions. But some spoke about developing new traditions or how to morph old traditions. So, but that concept of tradition and building that, what that looks like, and continuing engagement efforts. And again, that kind of sustainability piece and that it's part of a larger plan. So it's not sitting just in isolation with that financial responsibility piece. So really that largely went through kind of the process that we've engaged in. What you'll notice in the survey is I gave you straight data on that. I did not weight, and this came up in some of those. Are they going to weight kids higher than this? Are they going to weight the teachers higher than community members? Are they going to weight it? I'm like, no, I am giving the board the data. Now, as board members, you might want to look at that and direct me to go back and say, now I want you to look at it through the lens of a student, a parent, a community member, and ask me to bring that back to you. So I'm not opposed to doing that, but there might be a difference between what a staff member, an adult in the community, and kids feel. And you may want to analyze that differently. I see some head nodding. How about I just take that as a directive and run with it? Okay. Because it's something that you want to. Not saying that the board is going to weight any one of those, but you may see some nuances to what they're thinking, feeling, and what some of that feedback is based on kind of their role and how it impacts them on that. So again, we're still in that kind of decision-making process. I led with process. I'm going to bring us right back to that process. So at our March meeting, so I'll respin that data by category. I can get that out, and I can actually do that probably this week, load it to that website, alert the board when that's updated as well, so you can see it. You've walked through what it looks like, what those questions are. So we'll send that out and get that loaded. And then that positions you again for continued conversation or potential decision-making as soon as the next board meeting in March, where you're giving us as administration further directive. So I'm going to walk away with a directive to slice that data a little bit differently, to upload those pieces, announce all the engagement stuff's loaded for people. Any other kind of short-term directives for our team?
Do we, with 3 of us missing tonight, are the other board members going to get this and just make sure that they're caught up if we are doing anything?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it's really important, especially for our staff. We're here too. Even though our board members are absent, this is being televised live and then it's archived as a video. Each board member who misses a meeting goes back, watches that meeting that they have missed so that they're ready to contribute at the next meeting as well. Generally what I do is I'll make a follow-up call, give them the day or so to make up, watch that video, entertain any questions they might have so I can bring those forward to any next conversation. That was a great point. Great. Then I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to slice that a little bit differently, and then we're going to load that website with all of these pieces as well as those other, all those questions, comments by those different venues that we gathered. Excellent. We will move forward with that. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, we are moving on to our future agenda items. First one being the board meetings calendar. Future meetings to include March 17th, 2026, the curriculum meeting, 4:30 at the Education Service Center. A regular board meeting will be March 23rd, 2026, 5:30 at the Education Service Center. April 7th, 2026 is another curriculum committee meeting, 4:30 here at the Education Service Center. And April 13th, 2026 is a regular board meeting, 5:30 at the Education Service Center. Please make sure to check the district website for any updates as meeting times, dates, or locations may change. Next is follow-up and communication. Are there any other items from board members for follow-up or communication? Okay. Hearing none, I would move to adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second? Thanks, Melanie. All in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. Thanks, everyone.